The last of the original 5 great houses, Indoril rules the modestly named Indoril district, and they rule from their ancestral capital of Mournhold. While they never claimed land on Vardenfell, they do have ancestral tombs built on the Isle. Indoril traces itself back to the First Era, when the Kingdom of Esdain united the Chimer and the Dwemer. Even then, Indoril was a political powerhouse, and held religion as a core institution to their beliefs. This gave them a sense of superiority over the other Dunmer, to which they adopted the sigil of a set of wings, which meant to symbolize that they were above other Dunmer. Now, this also stems from the fact that they trace the roots back to Indoril Nerevar, who was originally part of the Tribunal. Of, I guess, what would later become the Tribunal. Now, during the Fourscore War as well, Duke Prince of Mournhold, Indoril Brindisi Dorum, served as a chief general of Morrowind, but was killed when Marunas Dagon sacked Mournhold in 2920 of the First Era, for reasons that aren't exactly PC. Now, at the turn of the century, wow, that's how tired I am at this point. Alright, well, at the turn of the era, Indoril's ties to Indoril saw them retain a lot of their influence and gain even more. By this point, Indoril extended its control to Daven's Watch, Necrum, although they would lose Necrum to Dress sometime later, and Almalexia. However, no matter how strong they seemed, there were some cracks in the fold, and this came essentially when, sometime prior to 572 of the Second Era, Thane Unvald Ironhand would sack Daven's Watch. Now, they would go on to participate in the Second Akaviri invasion, and then join the Ebonheart Pact. Obviously, they joined on the side of Morrowind. Then, later on in 582 of the Second Era, when the Daggerfall Covenant invaded Morrowind, Grandmaster Tanval Indoril joined the Indoril Vanguard to combat the invaders. He summoned the Brother of Strife, Belrath, to halt the Covenant forces, and while he did, Tanval would then lose control, and then locked it away in the Ash Mountain with help of the Vestige. This lifted the siege of Daven's Watch, and then Tanval went on to recapture Fort Varrock, but his son Garen was then killed in the process of this. Full of grief, Tanval held the Dress Grandmaster's son Sen hostage to gain access to the Tormented Spire and the second brother of Strife, Sedal. To capture Sen, Tanval had to occupy Kraganmore, but eventually with help of the Vestige, this occupation would be lifted. Tanval would later repent and then give his life to seal Sedal away. During Tiber Septim's invasion, Indoril joined Dress in fighting the Empire in a guerrilla fashion. However, when Vivek signed the armistice in 896 of the Second Era, many Indoril saw this as an act of treason. And after refusing to step down or sign the armistice, the Lord High Counselor of Morrowind, who was an Indoril, was then assassinated and replaced by a Hlaalu. Many Indoril nobles would then go on to see Hlaalu-backed coups against Indoril and see many of their lands and much of their power stripped away, and eventually many of these nobles would then go on to commit suicide, which brought the proud house down even further. At the weakest point of their existence, their remaining members fell back into positions in the Tribunal Temple hierarchy. The dominant Indoril faction were the militaristic order called the Ordinators, who protected Vivek, Mournhold, and the Tribunal Temple hierarchy. Indoril didn't participate in the events involving the Neverine prophecy in 427 of the Third Era, but during that year Mournhold would be plagued with ash storms, and this was due to the fact that Almalexia was being driven mad after losing her divinity and killing Sotha Sil. When the Tribunal faded away, Indoril lost even more of its authority, influence, and power. It's unknown how the Oblivion Crisis affected Indoril as well. Far from Vardenfell, Indoril was spared from the Red Year's destruction, but suffered in its wake. As the other houses were weakened, the Argonians invaded Morrowind and sacked Mournhold, further removing what was left of Indoril's influence and authority. The capital would then transition to Redoran's Blacklight, and while Mournhold would be rebuilt by House Redoran, Indoril's strength was near gone, having to absorb House Indoril to fill its holes. Indoril's tale is quite the fall from glory. Its political power and connections made them strong, and Indoril represented authority, strength, nobility, but this made them cocky and ignorant. When the Empire invaded, they proudly rose against the Empire, but when push came to shove, only Redoran answered the call. Hlaalu's backing of the Empire shoved Indoril down a notch, and by refusing to accept this, their leaders were too proud to live under the Empire's rule and took their own lives. Without the Tribunal's backing, Indoril became kind of a shell of its former self. Say what you want about Indoril, but they are currently a relic of the past, and an example of how flying too close to the sun can burn you. While their house isn't extinct, their remaining members remain part of the priesthood, and having to absorb House Indoril shows that they are no longer a viable house. Out of the 4 remaining houses of Morrowind, it seems likely that Indoril is likely to fall next. And after doing this video, I kind of wanted to recap the 5 great houses all in one little skit, because it's interesting kind of comparing everything. With House Telvanni, we get this uncertainty of change and ignorance to the world around it. It goes to show that you can't ignore things and you can't remain isolationist. With House Hlaalu, we get a lesson to not overly rely on one source of power and refuse to change. With House Dress, we really see that even the smallest and most minute of changes can determine whether or not your house can survive. With House Redoran, we see that adapting, overcoming, and maneuvering is the true way to survive in any world. And House Indoril represents that even the mighty can fall. The once proud and powerful house is a shadow of its former self, and ironically one of the strongest houses of Morrowind in the past is on the brink of collapse. So whether or not we see what will happen later on is yet to be known, and obviously, as a lot of these videos in terms of the houses of Morrowind end, hopefully we see in The Elder Scrolls 6 or later on, maybe with something lore related. I don't know, just give me something, please. But with that, I hope you all enjoyed. This was the last of the 5 original houses of Morrowind. I have yet to start research on House Saedras to see if we have enough information. Judging by how things are going, I don't think I'll be able to do that, because I've been doing a little bit of like here and there looking around, and there's not a lot there. But with that, I think I know what I'm going to do for the next video, and I'm actually kind of excited for that anyway, so even if I don't get to do House Saedras, I still have a fun topic I want to cover. But regardless of which, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the Discord chat and in the next video. Peace. If you enjoyed, please like this video because it really lets me know you're enjoying this content. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. The links are right here for you to click on, and the Discord chat link is right here as well. And overall, I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.